Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Wednesday, November 9th. Ian Cameron and a returning Alex B. Smith with us today. Yes, he has crawled out of his tomb. Not applicable. I see that comment in the chat. He's a little under the weather, but he's back today and ready to go for another edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks, by the way, to Josh Eunice yesterday. A great show with him. Almost over an hour and a half with him talking the Tuesday card, his playing pass. So that was a lot of fun. And he's interested in joining us again later this season. So good stuff there. And a decent Tuesday night overall from a betting standpoint for me. The best bet was a winner with Vancouver and Ottawa going over the total. That was good to see. Other than that, though, it was kind of an up and down night for me, honestly. I mean, it was a win some, lose some kind of night. We didn't get there with Minnesota in the late game as the LA Kings pulled it out 1-0. Kaprizov getting a match penalty there in that game. We saw the Winnipeg Jets. Both Josh and I liked the Jets from a spot perspective last night against Dallas, seeing Dallas at the end of a road trip. Jets looking to avenge a loss to Dallas earlier this year. A little bit of an advantage in net with Wedgwood against Hellebuck. And the Winnipeg Jets were able to get the job done 4-1 last night. Over the Dallas Stars, a good effort from them. A couple of overs I bet fell short. The Arizona-Buffalo game. Karel Vejmelka, I'm telling you, you get him on a good night. He can play well. It reminds me of the way he played against Florida earlier this season at the Mullet Arena. It reminded me of the way he played against Toronto, you know, when they pulled the upset against the Leafs. He has nights when he looks like a very, very capable NHL goaltender. And last night was one of those nights for him with Arizona as they down the Sabres 4-1. You got to nip this in the bud right now if you're Buffalo. That's now 3 losses in a row for them. Carolina, Tampa over the weekend on the road, and then you return home against Arizona and you lose last night. So see if the Sabres can rally the troops. Seattle pummels Nashville 5-1. Well, you just death taxes and bet Seattle and bet the team total over with Seattle. I mean, that's the way it's basically been for a while. The offense comes to life. And I said, and Josh did as well, actually it was more me, but I said when we talked Nashville-Seattle yesterday that Ryan McDonough is not the same defenseman. And I was nice about it. I didn't want to, rip on the guy too much because he's had a great career. Really, the New York Rangers, he had a great run there. We know what he did in Tampa Bay in those Stanley Cup years with the Lightning. Great defenseman for many years. Good at both ends of the ice. Offensively can chip in, but very sturdy and sound in his own end. He's any fucking thing but sturdy and sound in his own end this season. And he's a part of the reason why the Nashville Predators have looked like a shit show at times in their own end. And the giveaway that he had, and now the whole first period was brutal defensively for Nashville. It was giveaway city. But the one that he made, I mean, it was just a backhand puck up the middle of the ice in your own zone, right onto the stick of Jordan Eberle, and he whips it past UC Saros. I mean, a pizza right on the stick of Jordan Eberle. It was about as bad a play as especially a veteran, experienced Stanley Cup champion winning defenseman can make in that situation. And he's been shit. Seriously, I mean, it is. And I'm not going to be as cautious with my words regarding Ryan McDonough's play today. It's not been good enough. And really, the entire blue line for Nashville has been just an absolute sorry group for the last several games in a row. And it buried them just collectively how bad they were in that first period. And Seattle basically was just able to put it on cruise control from that point on and win that game. So Seattle gets the big win. Vegas beats Toronto in a good game 4-3. Montreal wins in a shootout 3-2. And credit to the Edmonton Oilers. Gut check win for them. 3-2 against Tampa. Things not going well. About the best sequence I've seen all year from a struggling Jack Campbell in the final minute. He was absolutely terrific to preserve that 1-goal lead. So big win for the Oilers. And thoughts to Evander Kane. That was a scary incident last night with Patrick Maroon's skate slicing him in the wrist. And he had to be taken right to the hospital. You saw all the copious amounts of blood that was on the ice following that. So he went to the hospital. He posted a message on Twitter saying thanks for the well wishes, and he's hoping to be back on the ice sometime very soon. Alex, thoughts from you on a Tuesday night?
Yeah, just start with that. That, like I said, that was incredibly scary. It's interesting. And watching hockey with friends who don't really watch hockey all the time, they always wonder, how often do you have incidents with skates? And it's extremely rare. It's shocking, the ones that stand out, Clint Malarchuk and Richard Zegnick, of course, being the worst. But that one last night could have been very bad, if not fatal. But Evander Kane realized it right away. You could see him screaming to the bench, I'm cut, as he's skating off. And great response by the trainers for his team and the Lightning, and of course the paramedics as well, doing a good job. They said he had to have surgery, so I don't know what that all entails. I don't know if there was any tendon damage or things like that. So we'll see, like I said, how long he's out. But that was an interesting back and forth game. And Toronto or Tampa Bay, rather, this is a team that's still trying to kind of get its legs under them. I think we're going to see them play better hockey over time, but they're just still kind of just in that limbo. And like I said, I feel it's mostly the fatigue from what they've done over the last few years kind of setting in. So some of those spots are a bit tricky. You can't look for them at all as a favorite right now. The only way I bet them is if they're in pick 'em range or an underdog right now. Looking at the Dallas and Winnipeg game, which, I always kind of look to take a small shot with a draw whenever those two teams play. But Winnipeg, coming out in big fashion, getting the 5 goals in the win, and now they're in first place in the Central. I was talking to somebody last night on Twitter about just how flip-flopped is this Central Division right now. We're thinking, this is just a two-horse race basically with Minnesota and Colorado. Those teams have looked terrible. St. Louis and Nashville looked awful, which I kind of predicted. I didn't think it would be this bad this early for those two teams, but I'm not surprised to see them closer toward the bottom than the top. Chicago, of course, is the little run that they had, but for Dallas and Winnipeg, they seem to right now be the class of that division. And those are teams that are riding hot goalies, of course, Connor Hellebuck and Jake Oettinger. When they play their A game, they're two of the best in the world, arguably. So that was a big win for the Jets. That Wild and Kings game, I was happy to see it. I had Kings, so get the 1-0 win. I mean, it's just really ugly and unfortunate what happened with the match penalty given to Kaprizov. He's frustrated. He's getting cross-checked 6-7 times in the back of the head and the neck, and there's no penalty called. And then he turns around, and you can see he tries to let up. I mean, he didn't, just full-on 1970-style baseball bat him with a stick. He got frustrated and went up high, but he kind of caught himself and just basically got his shoulder and neck. It looked bad at the time. I think it warranted a major penalty, but definitely not a match penalty, definitely not a suspension. And I know they're saying that more than likely he's just going to be given a fine because he didn't have any previous.
Yeah, they ruled earlier today just a fine. He's good to go tonight. Yeah.
Okay, so he's good to go tonight. Yeah, and that's good to see. And that's one of those things. Of course, they take into consideration the fact that if you've had any prior incidents, which he has not, so it's good to see player safety actually getting a ruling right for once. You don't see that happen too often. But the Vegas game, I was happy with that result as well. I had Vegas to pull out the win in OT. They've just been rolling hot right now, but no team hotter than the New Jersey Devils. I mean, they just still finding ways to win, even with the injuries, even with Blackwood going to be out, Palat going to be out. This team is just playing, a full group effort hockey, and we're seeing them, roll right on. So it's interesting to see some of these streaks. Seattle as well, teams that are getting streaky right now, and we can try to find some value in them.
I'll tell you what, this is now, I've watched a lot of New Jersey hockey lately because I've had bets on them. They've caught my attention with the run they've put together here the last week or two. Every game now I watch them, they look faster than the opponent. It's really amazing. I mean, they look faster than every team they play right now. And if you turn the puck over at the opponent's blue line against this Devils team, it's right down the other way at the end of the ice. And that transition scoring chance is coming, and you're not often ready for it. And that has been what we've seen for the New Jersey Devils. The transition game is lethal. All four lines are capable of contributing. They've got guys like Miles Wood and Nate Bastian buried on the fourth line, and they've been scoring goals during this run for the New Jersey Devils. It's absolutely remarkable how fast they are. And then, of course, they're very top-heavy with Heishier and Hughes. And look what Fabian Zetterlund is starting to do now that he's been up on that top line for the New Jersey Devils. Dangerous team, and shocking to everybody, and I've said this multiple times, they're actually a top 10, fringe top 5 team defensively in terms of shots allowed, scoring chances allowed, high danger chances, expected goals against, all of those metrics, all those statistics. New Jersey is a top 10 fringe top 5 team. I mean, and all they need is some saves from either Vanacek now or, God forbid, Blackwood when he comes back. And man, maybe they have staying power to be this good.
Yeah, it's possible. And that's the thing, the Devils' calling card for years was always defense, right? They were always the trap team in the 90s. And even in the 2000s when they had success, it was still a defensive first unit. But now, like you said, seeing them play transition hockey, playing with some speed, out skating teams, that's something we haven't been able to say about New Jersey really ever. So it's fascinating to see that. And like I said, sometimes when franchises get out of their comfort zone style-wise, and it's something you can say at any sport. Franchises fall into that, not just teams, not just coaches. Whole franchises can fall into that kind of either be it trap or just stigma of playing a certain style of hockey. When they get out of that zone, they can catch teams off guard. And then, like I said, you have these kind of moments. Same thing with Seattle. We talked about how Seattle was trying to build defensively from the expansion draft. It didn't really work out that way. Now they've been utilizing their offense, more speed. The younger guys that they've drafted and signed, they're faster, more skilled forward. So, I think that's a really important footnote that other GMs need to be making, is that sometimes you gotta, look at like a Toronto, for example. We talked about how the offensive loader they are. Maybe they start focusing more on defense, start building things differently, and not just looking at personnel, but just as a whole system. Sometimes you have to just flip the script, and that's what New Jersey's done so far.
I mean, it's funny. I was doing a segment with Scott Wetzel on Sports Grid last night, and one of the things he brought up, because he's bets a lot of shots on goal props, is that Washington, who are on the card, of course, tonight, only Ovechkin has 30-plus shots for that team. Everybody else has below 30 shots, and he's like got 50-some shots on goal, and everybody else is less than 30 shots on goal. And then you look at this New Jersey team and the shots on goal numbers. They have 7 guys that have at least 30 shots on goal this season. So look, that's probably a big reason why the depth of New Jersey's a pretty good team right now, and Washington's struggling right now. That's definitely, and look, and another, I brought up Miles Wood playing on the damn fourth line, second on the team in goals, and they got him on the fourth line. Tells you all you need to know.
That's important. We talk about it all the time. The great teams that win consistently, win championships in this league, along with good defense, they have balanced offense. No team's going to get it done with just 3 or 4 players on the top 6, spread across the top 6. You have to have scoring depth at all 4 levels nowadays, and that's what New Jersey has.
Yeah, exactly. And when you have 4 lines that each line's a threat, I mean, Lindy Ruff can put out each line now, and it's a threat to find the back of the net. That's a great luxury to have as a head coach. So, and we're talking about the same head coach where fans were chanting for him to be fired in the first 2 home games of the year, especially that ugly loss to Detroit, the first home game. They lost in Philly, and then they came back home. They played Detroit, and that was a rough game, no pun intended. And basically, they were chanting "Fire Lindy" that night against Detroit. So that was it. And then look at the difference now. Incredible stuff from the Devils. All right, hopefully there's incredible stuff on the horizon with our betting opinions tonight on this Wednesday card. We've got Carolina and Florida next to get things going. Even money here, -110 both sides, 6.5 the total in this game. I like the Canes here. I do. -110. It's an even money price. You've got Florida off a long road trip. That's always a spot that's a little dubious going into a game like this. And when you look at the Florida Panthers, some key absences, of course, none greater than Matthew Tkachuk, who is obviously going to miss this game because of the suspension for that. Just a dumb decision, really, for him to do what he did with Jonathan Quick there in that game against the LA Kings. I mean, he just basically poked the stick right through one of the holes in the goalie mask. And if you listen to Jim Fox, the television analyst for the LA Kings, not happy. It's like, you can poke someone's eye out. You can with that. And it was dangerous. I mean, no question about that. And sometimes, Matthew Tkachuk, he wants to be such an irritant. He wants to pester the opponent so much that he just takes it over the line sometimes. And that's exactly what happened there in that instance against Jonathan Quick of the LA Kings. So, they'll miss him dearly, of course. He's one of the, best players on the team up front on the forward group. And as a result, Paul Maurice has got the blender out with his lines tonight for Florida, juggling things up. He's got Barkov centering Carter Verhaeghe and an elevated Colin White onto the top line. And that's significant when it comes to those goal scorer prop situations that I love. Colin White might be worth a look, and you can get him in this game at a +425. And he's going to be playing on the top line tonight for the Panthers. Lundell centering Reinhart and Ryan Lomberg, talk about a pest. There you go, Ryan Lomberg, up to the second line tonight for the Florida Panthers. So it's another guy that might be worth just a small sprinkle from a prop standpoint to score tonight due to that elevated status up the lineup. As far as Carolina goes, they've been very good on the road this year, Alex. No question. The road record's good, 5-1-1 on the road this year. They're coming off a 3-1 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs on Sunday. They actually, I think, carried the play a little bit to Toronto, but credit to Eric Shalgren that day and the Leaf defense. They played pretty solid in front of their goaltender and held Carolina to 1 goal. That snapped a 4-game win streak that Carolina had prior to that game against Toronto. So we'll see if they can bounce back here. Generally, I like looking at Carolina off a loss. When you're a really good team consistently like they are, usually you do a pretty good job bouncing back. This has been a series that Florida's gotten the better of Carolina the last 4, but there's no question about that. I think when you look at the fact Florida missing Tkachuk, Florida still missing, also Aaron Ekblad, Patrick Hornquist, also still out for them, returning off a road trip out on the West Coast, and now facing a Carolina team that's got, 2 full days off without much travel. Going from Carolina to Florida is not much. I think it definitely is a situational advantage here for Carolina going into this game. So I'm going to go with the -110 even money price here with the Hurricanes. Lean over the total as well. I actually like the over in every game tonight in some fashion. This one I'm a little bit more lukewarm on the over, but I'd still lean that way. 3 of the last 4 meetings have gone over the total between these 2 teams. And you see what Florida has done lately. They've started to pump things up offensively a little bit. 4 of their last 5 games have gone over the total. Alex, what do you think here, Carolina, Florida?
Yeah, I would lean with the over here as well, but I would look for this live. I'd like for it to drop 5.5. And I probably would also look at a correct score in regulation of 3-3. That being said, I also like the draw here at plus 345. Yep. We've seen 3 of the last 4 meetings between these 2 teams go to overtime. I feel like these are 2 teams that they said same thing like Carolina, Tampa Bay. There's a bit of a rivalry there where these 2 teams, they kind of play each other tough, very physical, going back and forth, and even going back to that 2 seasons ago where they were back in the same division for a while, that Central Division realignment. That's where we kind of saw the kind of nastiest ingredients. A lot of those games went to OT as well. So I feel like it'll be a close game. If you like Carolina or Florida, I'd say definitely look for a regular money line side. But I'm playing the draw, and I'm going to go for a live over 5.5. Like I said, maybe sprinkle a little bit on that correct score regulation at 3-3.
All right, there we go. The draw. I kind of figured this could be a draw candidate for the draw king, Alex B. Smith. And yes, indeed, 3 of the last 4 meetings have gone beyond regulation with Carolina and Florida. There are a couple more props on the Carolina side tonight. I mentioned a couple with Florida, but Carolina, Marty Necas plus 270 to score. I like. Jarvis is always worth a look, as I've always said. But I actually have a rare shots on goal prop in this game tonight. Marty Necas over 2.5 shots on goal. It's only -130. He's cleared 2 shots on goal, which means he's had 3 or more shots on goal in 5 straight games entering tonight. So to have only over 2.5 at around a -130, I was able to find on Marty Necas over 2.5 shots on goal. I thought that was very good value. Again, 3 or more shots for him in 5 consecutive games for the Carolina Hurricanes. And Stefan Noesen, I'm going back to that well with him. He scored against Toronto. And he's only playing on the 4th line for this Hurricanes team, 5-on-5. But Rod Brindamore's using him on the top power play unit as a net front presence, as a guy to screen the goaltender, get traffic, find loose pucks in front of the net on the power play. And again tonight, it looks like Stefan Noesen is going to play the number 1 power play for Carolina tonight. And there are a couple of ways I'm going about this with Steph Noesen. Plus 380. To score a goal, which is, again, very good price. But I'm also going to take Stefan Noesen power play point, plus 300 for him tonight in this game. I think that is definitely worth a look, because when you actually look at the goals that he's amassed so far, he's only had 2, but he's earned 4 of his 6 points that he scored for Carolina this year. He has 6 points, 4 of them on the power play. So there you go. I mean, he's definitely been a noticeable factor for the Hurricanes with the man advantage. So there's a couple of ways. I'm doing a split between him just scoring at plus 380 and the power play point prop for Stefan Noesen. at plus 300. I thought that was really good, especially again, 4 of his 6 points have come on the power play with the man advantage.
Yeah, that's great value. Like I said, we talked about that. I recommended power play points for some of those top line players that might be not offering enough value for a goal or a point. But like I said, if you can find a guy who's getting even a bigger plus price in that range, in that spot, definitely have to roll them. And back to Natchez, what you mentioned with the shots on goal. Like I said, certain books you can get bet 4 or more, 5 or more at adjusted value. I'm looking at plus 180, plus 179 for 4 or more shots for Natchez tonight on goal. So that'd be a good way to maybe attack that too, as the books kind of try to adjust to his shots on goal.
Yeah, no question. And by the way, he has 2 goals, Nason, both of them power play goals. So another thing that you look at here that, power play is where he's done his damage. So that power play point I thought was really worth a look there. All right, Pittsburgh and Washington. Pittsburgh minus 130, road favorites, 6.5 the total. I bet it where it was 6, the total in this game. So that's why I listed 6, but it's a split line. Some books have 6 with juice, some have 6.5. So make sure you shop around. Over 6 minus 120 at DraftKings is available. So I do like over 6 here in this game. I mean, Washington is not a team that offensively has gotten a lot consistently besides Alex Ovechkin, but you got to like that we finally started to see some of the secondary players step up against the Edmonton Oilers in that victory for the Washington Capitals the other night. Hopefully that's a sign of good things to come. They're playing a Pittsburgh team that obviously doesn't have a whole lot of confidence protecting leads right now. That's another thing you have to factor in when you're betting totals. Teams that just cannot hold a lead. You're scared to death betting an under with any team that's having the problems Pittsburgh is defending leads right now, because that's bad news for unders. You got a team that can't protect any sort of lead, and Pittsburgh has certainly had those issues. The Boston game, they blew it. They lost 6-5. They were up against Buffalo, blow that game, lose 6-3. The Seattle game, once again, Penguins score the first goal of that game, and they end up losing by a score of 3-2 against the Kraken on Saturday. And I took a big shot with Seattle there at a big plus price. Not trusting this Pittsburgh team. So it's been a brutal run. 7 straight losses for them. Of course, the man behind the network here, or the company, the website that we're in partnership with, National Hockey Now, Dan Kingerski, does a great job covering the Penguins. He's had a lot of great video interviews, articles, stuff on this team, and he's written about, and I think he's probably right, they are a fragile group right now. They certainly look like it at the moment. So we're going to have to wait and see if the Penguins are going to be able to turn this thing around. But, when you have game after game where you are finding ways to failing to get the job done, it becomes just rooted in your brain that you're expecting the worst to happen. And I think that's where we're at with Pittsburgh right now. And I mentioned this yesterday on the show, that these teams that are scuffling right now, that we think at some point are going to turn it around, because you're not going to lose every game the rest of the way. But Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Calgary, there's a bunch of teams that fall into this. Rangers now, I mean, you've got to throw them into the mix a little bit. You want to pick a spot to say, you know what, urgency is going to set in. Desperation is going to set in. I'm seeing effort on a nightly basis, even though the results are not there. Maybe I'm going to pick this as the night this team snaps out of their losing streak, gets back in the win column. Well, if you've been doing that, and if you've been betting that way, you've been getting your head caved in, essentially. If you've been trying to handpick, this is the night for St. Louis to get out of their funk, well, you just keep losing game after game after game. If you've been picking, this is the night for Pittsburgh to get their ass in gear and finally get back in the win column, you've been just losing your ass, essentially. And so I'm done with that kind of thinking. When you're mired in this kind of brutal skid, like a Pittsburgh, like a St. Louis, like Calgary is now, and I stayed away from Calgary. Thank fucking goodness. Finally, I said, you know what? We got to let Calgary ride this bad wave out. And then when I see evidence of a win and a turnaround and getting back in the win column, then maybe I come back to bet this team. But until then, that's not happening. And that's the way I feel with Pittsburgh right now. I'm not laying a price with this team right now. They need to show me that they can put a win on the board. They need to show me that they can protect a lead and play a good third period of hockey. That's where we're at right now with Pittsburgh. No way am I laying a road price with them. Now, do I want to take Washington? I would lean Washington if I had to, plus 110 in this game, but they're still, I know they beat Edmonton, but, they're still beat up to shit with injuries right now, this Capitals team. I don't fully trust them either at this point. Wilson, Oshie, Hagelin, John Carlson on the blue line, Dmitry Orlov out, cluster injuries on the blue line. That's why I'm gravitating to the over here rather than a side. I think Washington's starting to get some offense going. Pittsburgh, I think, look, we can trust them a little bit more offensively than to keep the puck out of their own net right now. So I like over in this game, and I'm just going to stay away from it from a side perspective. Casey DeSmith, by the way, the net goaltender tonight for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and of course it'll be Darcy Kemper in net for the Washington Capitals. And by the way, Casey DeSmith 0-3, 3.25 goals against average, 904 save percentage this season. So we need a win, and Casey DeSmith winless on the season. So putting a lot of pressure on this guy's shoulders here. Try to help Penguins turn this thing around tonight. Alex, what do you think here, Pittsburgh, Washington?
Yeah, this is one of those games. I like the first period over, but I'm betting it live. If you want to grab a 2 at plus 125, I might advise that, but I'm seeing mostly 1.5s in the 150, 160 range. You can get a better price if you wait a few minutes after first puck drop for that. He said this is going to be one of those back and forth battles. These two teams, no matter how bad they're playing, they always get geared up for each other. Everybody, talks about the whole Ovechkin-Crosby rivalry, but these two teams just don't really like each other. We've seen the playoff battles throughout the years, and even though the catalysts like Tom Wilson aren't in the lineup and Chris Letang banged up, but these two teams still just kind of have a history of back and forth. And I think this might be a kind of cure where ails them spot for both clubs, really, because they're both struggling. Washington is just a bad team in my eyes. Pittsburgh, I'm not really exactly stunned. I'm stunned more by how they're playing now off of the way they started. If you told me they were going to have a 7-game losing streak at some point this year, I would have said, okay, I totally would have agreed with you, because I think Pittsburgh is having that downturn from a franchise standpoint where they're going to struggle. They're not going to be that dominant team year in, year out. And like I said, the injuries they keep dealing with, they mount at some point, and they're going to start bringing down this older core. But the way that they started off hot offensively, and then just everything just has fallen apart now, losing 7 in a row. He said this feels like it definitely could be a game where they, you want to gear up and get things rolling, especially against a rival. But no way you can lay 130 here. So this is just a strictly live betting game. Definitely one I'll be watching, but I'm not taking anything pregame. Like I said, with that first period over, if you can find the 2s, I see a couple of plus 125s out. I would recommend that.
Yeah, it's definitely been problematic for the Penguins on the defensive end. And let's keep in mind when it comes to the Penguins in their own zone, there's a lot of new faces there. I mean, Jeff, I hate to bash on poor Jeff Petrie, but I mean, it was a bad year last year. He's not exactly helped things so far this season. Jan Ruda is probably the guy that's, the one guy that's kind of stable in his own end. Dumoulin he's kind of been disappointing as well at times. I've seen turnovers out of him, and even the same thing with Letang. Letang's had the 7 points so far this year, but talking about 35-year-old defenseman now that's still playing, on average about 25 minutes a night, most nights for Pittsburgh. I mean, that adds up, over the course of a season. So a lot of question marks right now with the Pittsburgh Penguins in terms of the defensive ability for this team. Again, we'll see if they can bounce back tonight. I mean, this is definitely a door open for them. It's not like Washington is a world beater right now, and this is still a very injury-ravaged Capitals team. I mean, there is a door open for Pittsburgh tonight, but hell, I need to see them walk through the damn door before I bet on them. That's the way I feel. The way I feel about them, it's the way I feel about St. Louis. It's the way I feel about the Rangers now. I like the Rangers. Can't touch them right now until I see a turnaround there. Calgary, same thing. At this point in time, show me a win. Show me a sign that you can dig yourself out of this little rut and this little funk that you're in. That's where we're at with a lot of these teams at the moment. By the way, a couple of other things in terms of props here that I wanted to mention. Paling, Raquel, and Heinen, they're all plus 300, plus 400, plus 500, respectively. Tonight. Paling entering the lineup certainly maybe provides them a little bit of a spark. Raquel and Heinen have been getting their chances. They're plus 300, plus 400. I like Connor Sheary for Washington, plus 375, former Penguin, of course, maybe to find the back of the net. And he's playing on the top line as well. Sheary at plus 375. And also, I'm going to go back to the well with And Chris Otto mentioned it to me in a DM the other night. Very disappointing to see Sonny Milano have his goal disallowed, but obviously it was the right call. It never went in. It was off the post, but that close to seeing Sonny Milano get on the board the other night for Washington against Edmonton. Even though he didn't, it was still a bet worth making, and I think it's a bet worth making again tonight with Milano at plus 390 to score. He's playing on the second line once again for the Capitals tonight. All right, Vancouver, Montreal. We've got Vancouver minus 160, road favorites, 6.5 the total in this one. I mean, the Canucks get a much-needed victory last night against the Ottawa Senators, and Ottawa's another team you can throw into that mix now. The do not bet on list until they show you a win, because they're scuffling now and going in the opposite direction. But Vancouver able to get the victory. They need to put a win streak together. Certainly this road trip is going to get a lot tougher after this game, because you've got the Leafs, who've been playing a little bit better. A Leaf team that's got 5 of 6 points in their last 3 games against good competition, Boston, Carolina, and Vegas. So the Leaf game ain't going to be easy for Vancouver next on this road trip. And then you got Boston and Buffalo after that. So this becomes important here for the Canucks. Get 2 points here against Montreal. This is no slight on Montreal. Montreal is capable of rising up and upsetting anybody on a given night. But still, when you factor in Montreal, Toronto, Boston, Buffalo, who's the weakest team of the bunch right now? Yes, Montreal. So this is an important game. If Vancouver wants to dig themselves out of this early season hole, even with this being a back-to-back on the road, you need to try to find a way to win this game here if you're Vancouver. But I'm not laying $1.60 to do it. Not on the road here. Montreal did get a victory against Detroit last night in a shootout by a score of 3-2. It was a very good night in net for Jake Allen. He played very well in that game for the Canadians, and took advantage of a Detroit team kind of in a little flat spot, and plus a rest advantage. Montreal had been off several days, and here's Detroit. They had to play Saturday, they had to play Sunday, and they had to play again last night, 3 and 4 days. So I think Detroit kind of ran out of gas. And that's why I said yesterday on the show, it feels like Montreal's live in that game. And sure enough, they did get the job done against Detroit. Now it's back-to-back for them as well. Probably we'll see Sam Montembeault in net. We haven't seen a goalie confirmed on either side here, but it looks like it'll be Montembeault and Demko, you would think, in this matchup. So I look at this one as probably an over again. That would be the way I would bet it here, is the over 6.5. Once again with the Canucks. They're a team that I think offensively is quite capable. You see what they're doing right now of late, 5-5. They had the one game against New Jersey. They got shut down, but then 8-3, 6. I mean, they're scoring goals. They've gone over in 5 of their last 6 games. I think you're probably going to see more of the same here tonight with these 2 teams, especially on the back-to-back, where you could see fatigue and sloppiness creep into the equation, which often happens when you're playing back-to-back. So I would look over 6.5 here. And this is a game I like quite a bit of props here. Actually, 2 props on each side. Pearson plus 330 up to the top line for Vancouver. Tanner Pearson. Andrei Kuzmenko at plus 300. I'm still surprised you can get him 300 or better to score a goal the way he started the season for the Canucks. Kirby Dach, we keep going back to him. Top line for Montreal, plus 400. And Mike Hoffman, streaky goal scorer. I took him last night against Detroit as a goal scorer prop. He got on the board not once but twice. Streaky, that's what he is. When he starts to put the puck in the net, it can sometimes last for a few games. So Mike Hoffman for Montreal, plus 340, thought worth a look as well. Alex, what do you like here, Vancouver, Montreal?
I love this first period over. I bet this morning. Over 2 at plus 115 at Bet Online. Now we've seen it drop to 108. I've seen some 105s. So that number is slowly coming down. If you can't get that 2 at a plus price, I would recommend just waiting to grab 1.5 in game at a cheaper price. But Vancouver 12-1 to the over in the first period so far this year. And keep in mind now, Chris Otto, he does a tremendous job of those totals. Those are aligned at 1.5. But when you go through and you see these 2s with Vancouver, they've been sailing over those as well. We've been seeing 3 and 4 and 5 goals in the first period with the Canucks. We saw 3 in the game against Ottawa last night. So I definitely feel this could be one of those spots. Second night of back-to-backs, even though they went with Martin last night, could be some sloppiness and fatigue. And you can't trust them, like I said, to really string together wins. They've been alternating wins and losses over the last 5 games. Montreal's been a tough team. They've taken 2 of their last 3 opponents to overtime. 3 of the last 6 meetings between these 2 teams have gone to overtime or a shootout, with another one of those games being decided by 1 goal. Might want to lean with the draw here around plus 360, plus 365. It's not as strong of a play for me as the first period over, but that's a look I would probably take too. If Vancouver does come out a little bit sloppy, Montreal gets the offense rolling early, then maybe Vancouver can bounce back late and take this one past 60 minutes.
Right. Yes, indeed. Definitely. I think all of us liking goals here, especially early, like in the over in the first period here with Vancouver and Montreal. Forgot to mention with the Carolina-Florida game, we do have goalies confirmed there. Antti Ranta for Carolina, which is not unexpected. They want to be careful with Freddie. Anytime this team has a back-to-back situation. And of course, they play once again tomorrow night at home against Edmonton. So they're saving Freddie Anderson for that game. And it will be Spencer Knight in net for the Florida Panthers. I'm telling you what, if I'm Paul Maurice, you keep trying to play that kid more and more and more, because to me, goalie Bob is just up one day, down the next. That's often what we see from him. All right. This game is fascinating, and it's on TNT, TNT double at back-to-back nights with a TNT doubleheader. They had a rare Tuesday night NHL on TNT doubleheader last night because there was no NBA. So they had to fill the gap. Election night, they had no NBA on the schedule, and TNT stepped in and said, you know what? This is normally an NBA night for us. We're going to put an NHL night on instead. Good job by them.
Yeah, great job by Turner Sports. They always do tremendous work, and of course the TNT broadcast guys, they were a lot of fun last night too. So nice to see that happening. And ESPN, can you please free ESPN2? There's no reason for us to watch a UFC fight from 8 months ago. They could have easily put that Wild and Kings game that was on ESPN Plus last night on the Deuce. I have no idea what that channel's even for nowadays, to be honest.
I agree. I know they want to. Look, ESPN wants the people to subscribe to. They want the money. They want to suck the money out from everybody and subscribe to ESPN Plus. And we want to put all this shit on ESPN Plus. And of course, you'd have to watch it there. But that is ridiculous. I mean, that is ridiculous. You got ESPN2, perfectly great network. Most people get it. And you've got some UFC fight from 7 years ago on, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I get it. They dumped a lot of money into the UFC. They have obligations to fill too. But when you have all these spillover channels, ESPNU, ESPN News, which that's a whole different thing. I won't even go into that. But it's just like, just utilize the networks you have. And we're still going to subscribe. We all want to watch all the games. We're still going to subscribe to this, whatever they're calling now, Power Play on ESPN Plus. But just, it would have been nice to have had 3 games on network television, like you said, especially when people are trying to get away from election coverage here in the States.
Yeah, no doubt. But and by the way, you're right about the studio show. I mean, they're always good. They were really good last night. There's lots of hilarity, great.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're just shooting the shit at the bar. It's what you want in a pregame, postgame, intermission studio show. Fantastic.
And I love Gretzky, but I think this is the best combo they had last night with Biz, Anson Carter.
Biz, Anson, Tocchet, and Liam's actually very good as well.
Yeah. The 4, I think the 4 of them, that's the closest dynamic you'll get to inside the NBA.
Yeah.
Like that's almost kind of the counterpoint. Gretzky kind of adds a little different dynamic, and he's good in certain spots, but I think that's the real core they should go with on a weekly basis. Those 4 guys really do a good job together.
Yeah, Gretzky gets the big bucks just to parachute into the NHL on TNT studio show whatever weeks he wants to show up. Yeah, exactly. That's basically what the kind of schedule they've got him on. Yeah, when he's not doing weird, lame BetMGM commercials, we'll get him on TNT when it was freed up, or he's not golfing somewhere. But nevertheless,
or coloring his hair.
Yeah, exactly. This is TNT game, and this is fascinating. Because you got a team that can't score right now versus a team that can't defend right now. So what is going to win out in this matchup here? You got Minnesota versus Anaheim. Minnesota minus 150 road favorite, 6.5 the total. I'm going to lean with the team that is struggling to score versus the team that's struggling to defend. Doesn't this have to be a night for Minnesota? I mean, and look, I hate to be turning my back a little bit on this Anaheim Ducks team that I really liked coming into the season, but it's hard to really like anything you're seeing defensively from this team at the very least. I mean, actually, offensively, they haven't been that bad, the Anaheim Ducks. I actually like what I'm seeing from them. I've been able to capitalize on some undervalued players in terms of goal props lately for the Anaheim Ducks. But, I got to think after back-to-back shutout losses, and that's really hard to believe that Minnesota, with what they're capable of doing, gets shut out by Seattle at home and LA on the road in back-to-back games. But that's the way it's been. And what's happened to the, ability to generate? And that's the key problem too. It's not like wow, they got shut out in back-to-back games, and they peppered the goalie with shots and had these great, great, great chances, and the goalie had to stand on his head. No, they barely cracked 20 shots on goal in each of the last 2 games while getting shut out. So the generation of great offense and chances and opportunities has become a problem here in these last 2 games. But that could change in a hurry, Alex, against Anaheim, because you look at what's happening here. I mean, they're giving up 40 shots a night, 52 shots in the one game against San Jose. I mean, and Dallas Eakins hasn't done anything to fix it, and it's just the same old giving up way too much, giving up the blue line too easily, and just giving up the slot area in the front of the net. I mean, the quality of looks that Anaheim gives up, you've got to think right now, this is the night for Minnesota. And I was on the fence initially about trusting Minnesota here tonight, and they've still got a few injuries. Hartman, Duhaime, and Marcus Foligno still banged up for them. But then I looked and I said, I want to see what this team's done in terms of back-to-back situations. They've been very good on back-to-back spots, Minnesota. 6-0. The last 6 tries for them on the second night of back-to-back games. So with no days rest, back-to-back situation, they've won 6 straight. They're off that loss last night. And you look at the series history, and you've got absolute dominance here for the Minnesota Wild over the Anaheim Ducks. 4 straight, 11 of the last 12 meetings. Minnesota has been victorious over Anaheim. That's pretty lopsided when you're talking 11 of the last 12. Minnesota has beaten Anaheim. So that's going to have me on Minnesota here. I was able to lay $1.45. Bookmaker had it at that price. I decided I'd go with that. I mean, if you want extra value, you can go regulation, but I still think this could be a close game. So I'd rather have the security of maybe this game goes to overtime and Minnesota wins it beyond regulation in my back pocket. So I'm going to go with Minnesota here, minus 145. And I'm going to go with the over here because I've been betting overs with Anaheim every single game. I've had them multiple times as best bets with these Anaheim games for the show over the total. The Florida-Anaheim game on Sunday was a best bet show winner for me over the total. I think the San Jose game before that was another best bet over for me on the show. 5 straight overs for this team. They cannot defend a lick. They've given up 5, 4, 8, 5. I mean, it's ugly what we're seeing from the Anaheim Ducks. So I'm going to go over 6.5 here as well. And I think we can get the Ducks maybe to chip in some offense too, because I don't trust Philip Gustafsson fully. And he is, of course, going to be in net for the Minnesota Wild tonight, confirmed on the back-to-back. 0-3, 3.92 goals against average, 878 save percentage. His numbers this year. So that's the trepidation of laying a price with Minnesota. But I think they dig in and find a way in a high-scoring game tonight. What do you think here, Alex? Minnesota, Anaheim.
Well, yeah, great call on looking at the money line just overall instead of regulation, because I feel like this could be one of those games at the risk of sounding like a broken record. You can make a case for the draw for all 4 games tonight. And you look at this team, these 2 teams, 3 of the last 5 have gone to overtime. One of those 2 that didn't was a 2-1 game. Like you said, Anaheim's having a tough time defending. Minnesota's having a tough time scoring. So it's which wall comes down first. And Philip Gustafsson in net is someone I don't trust one bit. So that's the one caveat to looking at any kind of side here. But Kirill Kaprizov playing tonight, like you talked about with the match penalty that really shouldn't have been given out. I'm sure he feels some kind of way about that call, and he didn't want to let his team down. Of course, putting them in that spot and seeing the fact that they lost by 1 goal, his absence really more than likely loomed high on that, because he's a guy who could change the game at any point. I think we see him get on the board tonight. I like him to score a goal at plus 120. I know that's not a whole lot of value, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play that in with a half unit, and I'm also going to play another half unit on him to score the first goal of the game at 10-1. You can find that at DraftKings. I think he wants to kind of dictate the pace and tempo. That this team wants to dictate the pace and tempo early, and that'll be great for him to kind of just let go of what happened last night, get on the board, finally break this now. It's been a 120-minute game, scoreless streak for the Wild, and get them going in the right direction. So that's the only play I have here, just a split between Kaprizov, anytime goal, and first goal.
There you go. Kaprizov, anytime goal and first goal of the game. Terry Edelman approves in our chat. Shocking.
I'm sure he does.
He likes the direction you're going in there with the Kirill Kaprizov goal props. Not only the anytime goal to score a goal, but the extra bang for your buck, if you will, the bargain bin option, if you will, with him to score the first goal of the game. as well for Alex in this one. And there are some props I like. And of course, I'm going to get to those right now for this game because I do think we'll see goals both ways. These are small because I just feel like for Minnesota, there's incredible opportunity for some of these guys like a Jordan Greenway, who's now up on the second line. Even Boldy, I got a plus 260 in some spots. He's worth a look. But even these other guys that are on the third line, Connor Dewar, Marco Rossi, Mason Shaw, you're talking, these, and Mason Shaw, we know, has found the back of the net already. This could be the night where an explosion happens, potentially for Minnesota. They either are going to struggle again and get held to 0 or 1 because they're just in such a rut offensively, or they're going to explode against this sieve defense of the Anaheim Ducks. So that's why I think a little sprinkle tonight on those guys, Dewar, Rossi, Mason Shaw. I've already cashed a big plus price on him previously to score a goal. I think maybe worth a look on those three tonight as well for the Minnesota Wild. It looks like Terry is promoting someone too, Adam Beckman here for the Minnesota Wild. I'm trying to see if I saw his price yet listed.
He might not be available everywhere.
He may not be. We'll have to wait and see on that. But we'll have to see also if he plays because I don't know. They got recalled, but I don't know if they're going to put him in tonight. A lot of sites don't have him in. They have him as a scratch tonight. So that's another thing. And you probably won't see anything on him here. So let me just double check on that. But either way, we'll see if he's. I got to get confirmation he plays first before we go in that direction. So yeah, I'm going to take a shot with it. You're right about that. Gustafsson is a worry. Yeah, Russo from the Minnesota Wild, who follows that team, says he's supposed to play. So there you go. There's an option. If he does play, I think it's a sprinkle, plus 575. I always like that situation. Guy joins the team and in the lineup for the first time. He wants to make an impact. So there you go, plus 570 at FanDuel, Adam Beckman. So let's get that 100% confirmation, although Russo, who covers the Wild very well, is pretty sure he's going to be in the lineup. So that could be your buy sign, your green light, maybe to look toward Beckman here as a big value goal scorer prop.
Take a little beer money and parlay that Kaprizov first goal with the Beckman anytime goal.
Yep. There you go. And yeah, small bets. I mean, small amount. All my goal scorer prop bets are small bets. I mean, then they have to be because you're going to have a night where you, like last night, I only hit like 4 or 5 and I had like 20. So, and that's the way it is. You're going to have those cold nights. We got a couple. We had Nick Waugh for Vegas. Wade Allison from Philly scored. We had a couple others as well that found the back of the net. But yeah, it's not going to hit every night, especially at these big plus prices with the bargain bin selection. So you definitely have to keep it to smaller amounts.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go. That's the Minnesota-Anaheim game, and that's the Wednesday card here for this edition of the Ice Guys. Hit the like button, everyone watching on YouTube. Reminder, check out patreon.com/Ice Guys. $10 a month. Great bonus content there, including the daily card for the show from Alex and I. Our plays posted there each and every day. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. So make sure you check that out. And programming note that Jimmy Murphy, who we've got lined up to join us mostly on Fridays, this season, we're going to switch his day to Thursday this week. So he'll be on tomorrow instead with us. And he'll be on around 2:30 midstream. So he'll be on midway through the show and help us break down what will be a massive Thursday card. I'm sure we'll get his thoughts on the whole Mitchell Miller situation that unfolded with Boston. I'm sure he'll have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I'm interested to hear what he has to say on that.
No doubt. So Jimmy Murphy with us tomorrow on the Ice Guys show. Looking forward to that. And looking forward to best bets and hopefully cashing them for this Wednesday card. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
We're going to go with Vancouver and Montreal. That first period over, like I said, you should be able to still grab something in the range of plus 108 to plus 110, going over 2 goals in the first period. 12-1 to the over. And 4 of those 12, there have been 2 or more goals scored for the Vancouver Canucks. So this is definitely just a trend we're going to keep on riding. If they're giving us this get plus value, we'll go with the Habs and Canucks. First period over 2 plus 110 is my best bet.
All right, there we go. Habs Canucks over 2 in the first period. Best bet for Alex B. Smith in this one. My best bet, mostly my best bets have been totals on the show, and we've done pretty well with most of them, but I'm going to change it up. I want to see if I can get this. The sides have been more hit or miss when I've used them for best bets, but I'm going to go with a side tonight in the NHL for my best bet. I'm going to go Carolina minus 110 against Florida. Again, a team off a loss, 2 days off after losing to Toronto. Florida off the long road trip back home for that first game. Tricky spot. No Matthew Tkachuk, no Aaron Ekblad still for Florida. And I think Carolina takes advantage of it with the victory tonight against Florida. Carolina Hurricanes minus 110 against Florida for my best bet for this Wednesday card. And again, TNT doubleheader once again tonight. Pittsburgh, Washington, followed by Minnesota, Anaheim. So nice night of hockey. Only 4 games, but they're all intriguing games. Looking forward to how they all play out. Good stuff indeed. Thanks to everyone for joining us. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday, joined by Jimmy Murphy for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.